Hey guys, you come to Badass Agile because there's something about what we do here that sets you on fire. It excites you, it inspires you. You want to be uncommon. You believe what we believe, and I think you want to be part of something special. So why not click the link below to find out more about The Forge, our online leadership immersion experience. Next cohort is opening for December 2020, so go on ahead and apply. I hope to see you there. What's going on, everybody? Here's something I think we should remember. Nobody really owns Agile, and as such, there's no single way to do it right. So let's talk about what that means this week on the Badass Agile podcast. Greetings, team. Welcome to the Badass Agile podcast. I'm your host, Chris Williams. Hey friends, everybody, thank you for being listeners. I appreciate you guys being here. Thank you for tuning in from over 120 countries. I love each and every one of you. Listen guys, as the new Scrum Guide has been released, there's been a lot of chatter about what it means. So tune into this or download our free ebook to learn more about what's new and different in the Scrum Guide and what that means to you and how you're supposed to interpret it or take it. Well, I want to take a second to talk about the impact of that thinking, but first let's take a moment to remember why we're here. To create an elite tribe of leaders who truly serve their clients and communities by doing what matters and what works, relentlessly chasing value and excellence like a badass. There's so many resources out there about what you need to do to be agile, but we focus on who you need to become in order to lead teams. So let's hammer down those fundamentals to create a truly unique and powerful force in this industry. And remember guys, if this helps you, tell your friends. All right, so listen, new Scrum Guide comes out, and you have all of these people who are so-called experts on the interpretation, the definition of all the new terms and all of the changes to the guide. And this is wonderful stuff, and I don't mean to discredit the people who invented or technically own the ideas, the principles, or the writings behind existing Scrum or Agile. I don't mean to disregard those. And I certainly wouldn't want to forget about the massive amount of work that goes into, and historically has gone into, maintaining, creating, testing, getting feedback, and adapting this stuff. It's somebody's life's work, and I totally respect that. But here's something I'd like to get across. Agile doesn't really belong to anybody. That is to say, the strict definition. Number one, it can't really have a proprietary owner, at least not if we want it to work well. But more importantly, there is no singular definition to own. Here's my philosophy on why modern ways of working don't really work that well. Here's why we need Agile in the first place. Because we've been trained through school and through practice in the real world of large organizations, large-scale commerce, North American capitalism, whatever you want to call it. We have been trained how to operate the machines. So we're taught how to obey and how to respect authority, how to follow orders, how to understand instructions, ask questions, how to measure ourselves based on the context and the rules set by organizational contexts, and basically how to be a good, upstanding, high-performing employee. We're never taught to question accepted standards, to add your own mark, your own creativity to your daily tasks, whatever they may be. We're just really not taught those, what I'll call entrepreneurial or agile skill sets. So a lot of what's really exciting about Agile to me is the stripping away of those standards and conventions. It's about asking those questions we've never been taught to ask. You know, when I was a kid and I had my first jobs, we used to ask, what would we do if the boss wasn't here? And someone would hand you like a rule book because they had created a policies and procedures manual that told you exactly what was expected in just about every situation. Well, to my mind, Agile's the antithesis of that. It asks the question, what do you do when the boss is gone and there is no policies and procedures manual? That's the kind of thinking and orchestration that we're really interested in. So for example, if you and I were to work on some kind of product or project, some kind of outcome, and we were to coordinate and orchestrate our activities together from scratch, where would we go first? We'd go where we were taught. We would assume that we have an end goal, that we have a budget, a certain amount of money that we can spend on this thing, that we've got some kind of repeatable measurements or goalposts that we're supposed to measure ourselves, our progress, and our product by. So you see, we have this conception of what is the right thing or the right way to do or be agile. And the reason why this podcast has been 4 years long is there is no single way. If I could teach it to you in a weekend, I'd teach it to you and we'd be done with it. All we can learn is what's worked for others, what the framework wishes for based on its own objectives and outcomes. But after that, it's largely up to our own interpretation of how to get those outcomes. So what we know, for example, you and I building our product or project together, we know and have been taught that we want to keep a close eye on progress versus the time and money that we're slowly extinguishing day by day, hour by hour as we work on this thing. So the first thing we'd want to do is set up proper project planning and tracking and reporting. Yes? Actually, no, because we have learned, and if nothing else, Agile has taught us that the effort that goes into that reporting can easily convert into nothing but waste. Either because we're tracking the wrong things, we're spending too much time on tracking, or we're not taking the right actions based on the outputs of that tracking. So there's a perfectly good example of our first challenge working with agility. How much reporting, how much measurement is too much, and how much is too little, and therefore irresponsible. Now, if you look carefully at the Agile values, nobody actually said no tracking or reporting. In fact, Agile states very clearly that the work that we do should be made visible. And furthermore, the Agile principles themselves tell us that the best measure of progress is working software in the hands of users. So the goal, and in fact the whole point, is to find a rhythm, find a set of procedures and policies that are effective but minimally invasive. So let's imagine you decide, well, we don't need any reporting at all. Okay, that's great. That's super agile, right? We're not going to waste any time reporting our stupid progress. But then we very quickly find out that people who, are paying the money or providing resources want to know how it's coming. So we've got to demonstrate somehow meaningful progress. And we do that by showing a demo or showing a prototype, and people are either very pleased or they're not very pleased. But now they want to go deeper, and they want to find out, are we being productive? Are we getting better? Are we improving? So they want to put some metrics and measures around things. Well, the typical behavior of a team, again, having been trained to follow orders and answer requests and provide what's been asked for, is to give the metrics that people want to see. So now all of a sudden it's justified. This is something that the customer wants, and because it pleases them, this is necessary overhead. But of course, Agile now wants us to say, okay, if we have accepted that this measurement is necessary and valuable to the stakeholders who are paying us to create it, we still want to see if there are ways that we can make it simpler. How can we provide this information with less overhead? How can we make it so we don't need to provide this information anymore because it's self-evident or self-reporting? And in each of those cases, we try to decide whether the effort we have to take to make that happen, that is, to cut the waste, to reduce the overhead of reporting, is more work than leaving it alone, or whether it provides, once again, value to the whole team. Does it continue to give the stakeholders what they want, but at the same time satisfy the requirement of being efficient and low overhead? Everything you need is built into Agile to continuously be asking questions and kicking the tires of the work that we do. The problem is that we don't feel entitled. We don't feel enabled to ask those questions because we believe that Agile has owners, that products have owners, and that processes have owners too. And that some very, very smart people must have come in before us to establish these. So who are we to question it? So when you read the original Scrum Guide or the updated Scrum Guide, it is up to you to determine what these changes or what these values and suggested processes mean. How best to make them real, how best to honor the spirit in which they were created, how best to honor the values, how best to get the desired outcomes. And I think what trips us up so often is that we're stuck trying to balance what we as a team value, what Agile as a concept values, and what the organization values, wishes, and pays for. It's really tough for us to feel like we're enabled and entitled to make that decision. But guys, you are. And if you're not, maybe you're starting to feel like, not surprisingly, you're in the wrong line of work. I mentioned in a previous episode that really We want Agile to belong to those who get it, because those who get it will be the people who are willing to let go of everything we've been taught. They're willing to let go of everything we've learned about positional authority, about the way we've always done things, or even the right way to do things. Because I personally believe, and hey, this is a secret, don't tell anyone, that to me the most important thing about Agile is the autonomy that it creates in each of us. When Agile's working well, it makes you feel like you can do whatever you want because you get to determine the right way, the best way, the most effective way, the most fulfilling way to get this job done in the here and now. And personally, I think that's one of the most important things that we as practitioners can do to create a new way of working that encourages more autonomy, that encourages more of our own sense of limitlessness, and celebrates and protects and defends our wish and desire to do our most meaningful work in a way that liberates ourselves, our customers, and everyone else that we work with. So I use just one example today of measurement, but any process from your stand-ups to how you do your demos to how you do your retrospectives to what questions you ask in your retrospectives. What does a Scrum Master do versus what do they not do? What does an Agile coach do? What does a business analyst do? All of those questions and the answers to them are yours to decide. Discover not through prose, not through documentation, but through doing what works best. And don't be thrown off by the fact that people are very, very stuck to old ways of thinking and old ways of doing. That's the whole challenge of agility. That's the puzzle that's been thrown down for each of us to solve. But make no mistake, you can do this your way. You can discover what works for your team, your tribe, your organization organically by doing. And as long as your heart and mind are centered on the ultimate goal, which is how do I provide value for my customers, for my team, while still giving stakeholders what they said they wanted. So don't let anybody read you the book this week or any week. It is up to you to decide how best to implement. And I think that's where the courage is in agility. So the sooner you get practice speaking your voice, speaking your mind, then the sooner that your grand vision for agility, for your career, for your life becomes true for you. All right, guys, let me know what you think. You can reach out at badassagile.com or find me on Twitter at badass_agile. I look forward to seeing you next time. And until then, stay badass.